We need to restore. In restoring, we need to educate people about these ingredients, and that they were part and parcel of their lives, and that in order for them to get ahead, they don't have to leave these food crops behind. We're having our kids that look older than the people that are older than them, and they can attribute that, their physical development to what they're eating. Then if somebody said, "Oh, have you tasted food from Lesotho?" What do they eat about Lesotho? Harit, we have to think hard because we have not really bothered to kind of popularize our food. So we do need to have the cultural restoration of who we are and what we are supposed to be eating, and to also just try and stave off the lifestyle diseases that are coming as a result of us having stopped eating what we are. But what is vital is that we need to eat our own food, because when you do that, one, you are actually correcting a lot of stuff. Your body remembers, understands this thing, processes it better than anything else because it knows it. And also is that our food is our medicine. Every plant, every vegetable is there for a purpose. So when you eat the right food, you are actually either preventing or controlling some disease.
We must so that we can go forward properly.
Yes, definitely. So the title here, Research is Mapping the Indigenous Food System in the Inner City of Johannesburg to Enhance Healthy Food Options for Youth. So kunama African food shops amaningi in the inner city of Joburg that I've now been exposed to through working with Exotically Divine. But thinking of what people don't know where these shops are, what you can get, even just understanding what does ihlala look like, what does baobab look like, what does plantain look like. These are things we don't engage with, and especially as young people. So what this research is also trying to do is firstly map the information to make sure that it's there. People are now empowered to say, I can go to 15 Garrick Street and buy a coconut, ngingaya kulomgwaqo othile ngithole ukudla kwase Tanzania, whatever it is.
Also, even when you said where they can find it, is the city that safe for people to go and get that stuff? As Africans in the urban areas, we think that by living in the city, it's almost like a snake having to shed its skin and then become this new urban animal and not be who you are. We know ourselves as migrating people. We are migrating from where we were to where we are now, or where we're moving to. But each time you move into a new place, you're kind of leaving a piece of you behind. We are not growing the food, so the food is not following the people. I happen to have the blessing of being raised by my maternal great-grandmother. When we left her homestead where we were in the village and we moved into a township, we did not move with that kind of food, because that's not what was available in the general dealer when you went to buy. That's also not what is available in the various markets. We in the township where we were, you'd have these informal market stands that people are selling, but then we would then find the tomatoes and the cabbages and the green beans and whatever. We didn't have what I grew up eating during my first 6 years living with her.
Maybe what are the issues that you've noticed about getting healthier foods into cities? Like what are the issues around that? Why aren't we eating as healthily as we should?
Yeah, I think the first problem we have when we get to the urban areas and the cities is that the cities generally don't grow their own food. And when they do, they grow common and popular vegetables because it's easy to get the seedlings or the seeds and to get the necessary technical support. But what is vital is that we need to eat our own food because when you do that, one, you are actually correcting a lot of stuff. Your body remembers, understands this thing, processes it better than anything else because it knows it. And also is that our food is our medicine. Every plant, every vegetable is there for a purpose. So when you eat the right food, you are actually either preventing or controlling some disease. When we are eating the wrong things, the processed stuff, the stuff that is quite foreign, the stuff that is being seen to be relevant, to be trendy, to be popular, to be happening. And so when we now go back and eat that stuff, it helps us because also Food is food is not just food that you just stuff into your mouth and it gets into your body. Food is also spiritual.
Totally.
You know, when you're getting something that is clean, something that is meant to heal you, something that is meant to fix some parts, and you know, it goes to the right place. You know that when you're eating healthy food, you actually say, it's moving. There's something that
move your waterfall inside.
Doing. We understand, and you could actually say, how is it the way that I have a problem with this? But yes, since I'm feeling much better.
Yeah,
because if you think about how we grew up, we didn't grow up in households where there was a medicine chest.
Yeah.
You grew up where there were lots of plants.
Yeah.
If you came crying from outside and you've cut yourself, somebody knew what you were supposed to be eating to help that wound to heal better. You basically need to eat your medicine and not drink your medicine. And a lot of people are drinking their medicine, eating their medicine. Your food is your medicine. If you eat the right food, you will have less reliance on medicine. And we don't get that in the food that we go in. The food that we buy from the shelf is not meant to help you. Hence, that's why when we now go into the urban stores, you are finding something that's going to say health food. And you're saying, so what is the rest of this thing?
Else?
So if only 10% of the shop is reserved for health food, what is the rest? So am I drinking poison? I can have the small.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know if that's your special cup.
Yeah, I can have the less tea.
Okay.
Yeah. So to say, if this is the healthy food, the healthy section, what is the rest?
A section.
The health section.
And it's a section. It's a small section.
Imagine.
Yeah, you go into a section, you've got to look for these things. If it's organically grown, it holds the smallest amount of the shelf. If it's healthy food, if it's pesticide free, if it's
pesticide free,
or whatever, it's just a small, tiny section. You know, a lot of us aren't going back to those rural provinces or the villages where we came from. So how are we going to make sure that our future generations get to eat what we were eating, getting stuff that is nutrient dense, that their DNA can also recognize? I also realized that if I'm growing indigenous African crops, those have not been commercialized. Also, it means that I am able to grow them as natural as possible. While what they call the popular modern Western vegetables, you know, they've found a chemical for each and every problem that crop can have. So if it's got this sprayed with this, if it's got this, so there's not much study that has been done on our indigenous African crops. If it gives us an opportunity to grow clean food.
Totally.
Because even the expense of those organic products, they're quite expensive. Just the coconut oil.
Help is for the rich.
Yeah, coconut oil goes wildly everywhere, but it's more expensive than sunflower oil where they use sprays for it to grow.
So we've made eating unhealthy to be cheap at the cost, at the expense of our own food. And that is the challenge we have in the urban areas, because one, the urban areas aren't necessarily growing food, they're relying on the other places to grow. Even there have been programs that says every household one garden, one household one garden. That hasn't happened. How many houses have got that rooftop? So if we've got the stand duck, where am I going to grow the food? Because my roof is standing like this. Then if you're talking about a balcony, how many of us have got the balcony? But also because we've adopted different types of lifestyle. So in your balcony, you already have got that braai stand or the skottel braai. You have got a little round table there with the 2 chairs and whatever other stuff. There is no space for your garden. And then when you move into the special development where we live, you're staying in a townhouse. The townhouse doesn't have their rules, you know, that says that you can't grow 1, 2, 3. You basically, in most of the established, cannot grow food, but you can grow whatever flowers that you want. Yes, the body corporate regulations, you know.
That everything must be uniform, look the same color, same flowers.
Yes, certain plants. In some places, there's guidelines about the type of plants you can grow.
Yeah, totally.
And you are not going to find something that says you can grow inkaka, you know, which is a creeping the bitter gourd kind of African vegetable. There's nothing that says you're going to grow that.
Inkaka.
And but also, who is building those houses? It's not us. We just happen to be tenants or people that buy those kind of properties. We're not controlling the spatial development. And even when we do, we are copycats. We are copying an estate or a block of apartments that we saw somewhere. Hence, then we're going to have the Beverly Hills. You look into the names that we choose for this establishment.
Yeah.
So they will then obviously follow a very Eurocentric approach.
What I'm researching about is really that trying to get young people to, firstly, our palates, we must be refamiliarize ourselves with these foods that we grew up eating, but also some of us maybe weren't even exposed to these foods because of growing up in an urban area, for example. There's a lot of work, I think, in my observations to be done about relinking, like growing a relationship of us as young people with our African food. We speak a lot about Afrofuturism and taking pride in our identity. There's a lot of that movement that's happening now, but the food almost seems like a last resort.
Coming across certain smells, I just remember it reminded me of my early childhood to say, man, I know this thing, what is it called? I just could not remember.
Yeah.
And I thought, if I'm struggling to remember what this thing is, can you imagine how many more other people? And I really wanted to give people that joy of reconnecting about who they are. Initially, it were the expat communities that were missing food from their own home countries, and that's where we started. And they were looking for food that was authentic, that tasted like what they knew, and they got excited. And then the word spread. So a customer from Burundi will tell other people, I just bought this, it tastes like the one from back home. And then the word spread. So we started selling to the expat community. Now you come across an agro-processor who says, I'm a baker, I'm looking for healthy whatever flowers, and which ones will those be? And we started by giving them samples where somebody would say, I've never used the sorghum flower, or will it behave like the same way as the other flowers that I know from your corn flour, your coconut flour, your wheat, or any other flowers that people had access to. And then people started playing around with that kind of stuff. The healthcare professionals who are also driving the volumes, because then they get presented by people with certain chronic ailments or certain lifestyle diseases, and they know that they can write as many scripts as they want, but if people don't change what they're eating, it's not going to work.
It's
So then those people start to say, oh, I need you to eat amaranth grain. And the person say, I'm not going to find amaranth grain. What is that? How does it look like? How do I cook it? And then we started then being able to promote that. The other market that we've also seen is of people that are homeschooling their children. So when you are homeschooling your kids, you don't have the pressure of somebody that's taking the child to a mainstream school where there is a tuck shop that's going to sell a pie, a cream donut, and a samosa, and whatever, all of that other stuff. You literally design what the child is going to be eating and expose them. And then people start to say, no, as part of learning or enriching my child's life, I would like them to come to the farm and spend an afternoon, which is actually part of the learning. And then we're seeing those kind of people to say, we also want our kids to kind of work the land, not only just consume the food that is ready, but also know where the food is coming from. And one of the things that happens, what people don't understand, is that, so when you look at us as Africans, there was certain food that we were not allowed to eat as kids. And not because our parents or those that raised us were stingy or were nasty, but they just knew that it was not good for you at a particular age. They would say, oh, you mustn't eat, say, maybe eggs, or don't eat milk or whatever, stuff like that. And while you might not have understood, at a later stage, sometimes when you now consult with healthcare professionals, they actually start to eliminate some of that stuff from your diet. And you say, so my grandmother was actually a wise woman because she told me not to eat them. They just say, oh, we don't eat that. Or young women or young boys don't eat that. And you thought they were being nasty, they were bebeing greedy, they wanted this thing to themselves. But they knew what it would do to your body. Hence, they discourage you from eating that stuff. And it's only later in years where you're thinking, but you're also thinking, when you look into right now how our meat is being, the way the animals are being raised, to realize where does all the poison go into? Aren't these internal organs even absorbing all of this poison?
Like anyone can make the observation that supermarkets are what is dominating the food supply. Well, how do you think maybe is the value of introducing these African foods into these markets
in a way that will serve kind of the integrity that I think you bring to this kind of market? How do we really do that in a way? Because the food that we're seeing in our supermarkets are not reflecting who we are. Like 90% of people South Africa are black, but the food that we are getting is really all this high processed, high sugar content, high salt foods that we are getting. So how do we really do that?
There is value in navigating those spaces because those are the go-to places for our people. You know, our people aren't going to restaurants to dine. If they do, they're going to the fast food outlets where they're standing in a queue or they're walking in there. The food has already been pre-cooked. It's just a question of warming it or throwing it into some hot oil and then putting it into your plate. So if we were to decolonize the retail outlets to say what is there, what are they serving? So where's the whole grain sorghum? Why is it not there? Why also there's only the red sorghum? Where is the white sorghum? Then you could also think, okay, how do you cook this thing? Do I soak it to retain its moisture? You know, there's no instruction. So it is always assumed those people that know it are the ones that are going to buy it. It is not assumed that there's a new person that might be interested and helping to cook it. If we were to organize, be it the urban farmers, to start growing and improving access, but then target the retailers that are probably more open to actually having these options. So you don't have to look into the entire maybe retail range to say there's like 7 main operators. You just decide, okay, I'm going to go to this particular group. If you are saying which is the major retailer in our townships or in our residential areas, and you say this one, and we try, and obviously amongst us we get to study them, understand their procurement processes, understand their compliance requirements, what do they want, and then make sure that our staff do comply to their standards, how they want the staff to be packaged, you know, what sizes are really moving, are they selling the 1 kg or the 500 grams, or are they selling the 2 kg? That retail calls for you to have a merchandiser. You know, you need to promote, you need to run in-store activations, put the product out there for people to try and taste. If somebody's having new biscuits, they're going to have an activation in store where they're going to say, oh, today, by the way, we have got this thing, and you get to taste. Because what our food is being grown on a small scale, our people just find themselves not having the means to embark into all of those kind of marketing activities to promote the products, even though we know that they are good for our people. The access is just not the capacity to promote it and get the uptake and get it to be embraced and becoming more popular. It's just not there. And that's why in the restoration of our food, we don't have to try and tackle everything. Recipes. People said, you know, I bought these things, but I don't know how to cook it. Some people said, I've bought a madumbe, you know, that they're sitting in my pantry. I don't know how to cook them because they come without the cooking instructions.
So,
if you went and bought kiwi fruits, you know, they will tell you what you're supposed to do. They dial the health benefits. They also show you a recipe, how to use them. You could put them into your smoothie and whatever other stuff. See, now we just assume. So we have reduced the access and the demand to the primary eaters. We're not selling it to the people that can even benefit more, that might even have got the buying power to buy them, because we're not educating people. We need to restore. In restoring, we need to educate people about these ingredients, and that they were part and parcel of their lives, and that in order for them to get ahead, they don't have to leave these food crops behind, because they think that they've arrived. Having arrived means that I must eat caviar, I must be eating pasta, you know, I must be going to a French restaurant, I must go into an Italian restaurant. Then if somebody said, oh, have you tasted food from Lesotho? What do they eat about Lesotho? Harit, we have to think hard, because we have not really bothered to kind of popularize our food. Mara Basotho ba tletse in the inner city of Joburg, and whether ke Basotho ba ko Vrystaat or Basotho ba Lesotho, you know, Batswana ba teng, other than ting, you know, other people have taken their indigenous traditional food and popularized it. There's more Thai restaurant in Gauteng. You know, Thai restaurant, it's easy to get Thai food. It is easy to find Chinese food. It is normal for people to eat with Chinese chopsticks than whatever other stuff. You know, there's many Indian restaurants. how many are we as Africans?
Southern
What-
Africans, especially.
Southern African,
Yeah.
but I don't know if somebody said, what is Mozambican food? Other than people who say prawns
Yeah, we say.
and peri chicken.
Yeah.
Or
And
coconut
beyond
water.
that,
They say Nando's.
yeah.
Just say Nando's.
You know, that's what they think is Mozambican food. You know, so if somebody said, oh, what is Malawian cuisine?
Fish.
Do we know?
Exposure at large of both worlds to be, because now end up is for the people who are elites, for somebody who has traveled Africa to know that as an African you must identify, you must know the jotsa batho ba Namibia, because only motho a se wait agasi bother can to.
Now, the thing is that we also don't know food of our own colleagues from other provinces. So you grew up in Soweto next to somebody who originally came from Venda. Now you were separated by a street,
And
then
bleached to
and
other
then the rest of the people. Somebody will tell you that I'm a third generation Italian, and you walk into their house. They're still eating Italian food. There's
Totally.
more Italian food in the house than there is South African. Yes, South Africa, you were born and raised here. Maybe your great-grandfather came in here in 1960, whatever, 50-something. But you don't mistake the fact that you have entered an Italian household. You do not mistake the fact that you have entered a Portuguese restaurant. We all know that when we go to certain areas like Cabo Bears Valley, you know, they give you a character of the people that used to be there from their spiritual places. You will know that, there will be a Greek Orthodox church, and you will know that then it means a Greek Orthodox community used to be there. If you go to Yeovil, you can see there's still the synagogues. You could see that, there's a shul. So there were Jewish people that once lived here, and you can also see even from the trees that people planted, even the fruit trees. So if a fruit tree is of a religious or spiritual importance, it will be in a lot of these households, and that is what is lacking. Some indigenous fruit as well, moringa seeds. This is one of the egusi melon seeds.
It's a melon.
Yeah.
Okay.
When you
It's a
eat
melon.
this is an African snack. We call this umkwakwa. Yeah, it's from the thing that looks like a mashal.
Okay.
Lerutla li brown ka bogare. You can got that caramel flavor. This one it's yellow on the inside. They make a snack out of that, which is good for your
And why is it
digestion.
Good for your digestion.
Zebra beans.
Can
The stunning.
Can I see
Stunning.
Zebra. I've never seen
Oh, they're from India.
Yeah.
Oh, Nazila.
Pod.
Look at that pod.
What? Zebra
Zebra
beans.
beans.
Yeah, so I've got that.